If you're watching or if you're listening to the podcast, welcome to another episode. Let me make sure that I'm live. Today I'm going to be talking about macros 101, why I think macros is the best diet for weight loss. So if you have questions, please drop them. Ladies, it's so good to be live inside of the Facebook group. I'm really excited about this episode because this breaks it down from the foundation. So sometimes you may hear me, on social media and I'm talking about things, and sometimes you just forget that people need to start from the basics, from the beginning, and understand like why it's important to understand your food, and also why I think counting your macros and understanding your macros is the best diet for weight loss. I'm going to explain to you why I say that, but if you're watching and if you can hear me, y'all let me know. And please drop your questions. What questions do you have about macros, nutrition, weight loss as it relates to macros? And if you're new to me, I'm Coach Steph. I'm a registered dietitian, personal trainer, and a mindset transformation coach. I am the host of the Fit Figure Formula podcast. I'm the host of the Fit Figure Formula group coaching program, where I help you create a lifestyle transformation by helping you understand and master your macros and master your mindset. So those are the two things that I think that are most important when it comes to a weight loss transformation and really like changing your lifestyle, is mastering your macros, really understanding your nutrition so you can stop guessing and create more certainty. And then also mastering your mindset, because the best diet strategy is not going to help emotional eating or stress eating, or you thinking that you're messing up and self-sabotaging, or you feeling like the scale is telling you your self-worth, and when the scale goes up you kind of freak out. The best strategy isn't going to help any of those things. If you are really on a self-love journey, because that's what it is for a lot of us, is like, how do I love myself on this journey, instead of just waiting for the love to hit me once the scale says a certain thing. If you're really on a self-worth journey, a self-discovery journey, the Fit Figure Formula is perfect for you, because I couple life coaching with teaching you about your macros, and that is going to change your life, not only like your health, but in other aspects, because what I teach as far as the mindset part can definitely be applied in other areas. Thank you for letting me know, Letitia, that you can hear me. I appreciate it. Okay, so y'all drop your questions. If you have any questions about macros, about mindset, about protein, carbs, fat, or weight loss in general. I do want to give you some announcements before I dive in. So the Fit Figure Formula 16-week group coaching program is now open for enrollment. So when you are applying and you join within this first week, you are getting a bonus one-on-one call with me, which lots of clients have asked for that in the past. So you get a bonus one-on-one call with me, and you get a meal plan made by me. Okay. I never make meal plans. This is the first time I've also ever done this. In the program, I'm going to teach you how to create your own strategy for meal planning. Okay, I'm going to teach you that, but it is helpful and kind of just takes off the pressure at the beginning if I give you your first few days. So that is what I'm offering if you're signing up in the first week to join the Fit Figure Formula. So what you need to do is check the link in the comments. There's a pinned link, and just apply. So basically you click on the link, you answer a few questions, and you will book a call. This is a free, no pressure call. I want to work with ladies who are like, I might be a little bit scared, but I'm ready. I don't want to work with ladies who don't want to work with me, right? So I'm not going to be pressuring you on the call to like sign up, because I want you to be excited to start. right? And so this is a free, no pressure call that I get to know you a little bit better. I'm going to ask you questions, get to the real root of the problem, and we can decide if the Fit Figure formula is the right next step for you. Okay. So today, again, if you're joining me, I am talking about the foundations of macros, why I think understanding your macros is the best way to lose weight. And so if you have any questions, I would love to answer those for you, even if you're watching the replay. So I'm going to pull up my notes. And as I'm going, if y'all have any questions, just let me know. So again, welcome to the live, or if you're watching the podcast, welcome to this episode. This is going to be a really good one because I'm going to be breaking down macros. What are macros? So if you are listening live or if you're listening to the replay, okay, type in the chat, what are macros? And if you don't know, just say, I don't know. Because I really want to see, because sometimes I forget that, like, okay, most people don't know what macros are. So I might be saying this word and you're just like, I don't really know what that means. Let me know. Do you know what macros are? If you do, type yes, or you can type in what they are. If you don't, say no or I don't know. And let's see how many ladies who are watching live or the replay know what macros are. While y'all are doing that, I'll tell you, the Fit Figure Formula podcast, if you're not listening to it, you should definitely still check it out. I am producing roughly 2 episodes a month. I'm doing every other week now because of my schedule, but I have some great episodes that just launched. So I have my client, Jenny, who has been doing great inside the program, and she came on to share her experience. So you'll definitely want to check that out. She has been traveling to Sweden, to different places around for family and like her work stuff, and she's still been doing great. And then I also had my friend Kim Castro, who is a master gardener, on talking about beginner gardening and what to do with your garden. And if you like usually kill everything like me, she gave lots and lots of tips on how to start a garden so that maybe you can, have some fresh fruits and vegetables. It can be good exercise as well too. But that's also a good episode. So those are the 2 newest episodes. I do think there's one dropping on this coming Tuesday. So if you're not already listening to the podcast, check that out. Okay. So Letitia says not sure. Okay, cool. So here is what macros are. They are carbs, proteins, and fat. Okay. So these are the 3 ways that we get calories out of your food. Literally, like, alcohol provides calories, but it's not a mandatory nutrient, right? Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These are the 3 ways that we get calories from our food. So typically we will categorize a food by how much it has in it. So for example, Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt typically has more protein than it does carbs and fat. So we call Greek yogurt a protein, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have carbs and doesn't have fat. Most foods will have at least 2 of those, if not all 3. So don't be fooled into thinking that eggs, for example, is protein. Most people will think, okay, protein, but it does have a significant source of fat as well. It doesn't really have any carbs. So that's an example of a food that maybe has 2 out of the 3 macros. And this is important because when I teach my clients inside of the formula, number 1, we take a very step-by-step process, but by the end, you are able to clearly see how much fat, how much carbs, how much protein, and how that affects your calories. So when you are counting macros, essentially you are counting calories, because for every 1 gram of carbs or protein, you're going to get 4 calories. And for every 1 gram of fat, you're going to get 9 calories. So when you are counting macros, you essentially are counting calories, but you're saying, hey, I want a certain percentage to come from fat, a certain percentage to come from protein, and a certain percentage to come from carbohydrates. And this is really, really important because here's what I see a lot is that most of new clients that I start coaching, their diet is very carb heavy. And there's nothing wrong with eating carbohydrates. I literally just had this conversation last week with a client who was concerned about her A1C, and she was about to go back and get another A1C. And she was like, I've been eating carbs. She's been working with me for the last 3 months. And she's like, I don't know. I think it's going to be more because it's going to be higher because I've been eating more carbohydrates. And then she went, got her labs done. It went from a 5.7 to a 5.3. And she was like, I was like, see, I'm vindicated, okay? Because you can eat carbohydrates, but I teach you inside the formula how to do that. Okay. So counting macros is going to help you get so much more clear on your food, how much you're eating, whether or not you can have a treat or not, or how much of that treat you can have. Because right now, I would bet you're guessing, right? You're just fasting. Maybe you're just cutting out breakfast and I'm only eating from 1 to 8. But you still have no idea how much protein you're getting in that window. You still have no idea how many calories you're eating in that window. And if you are tracking, which most people don't do tracking well, okay? Most people are tracking incorrectly and they're tracking inconsistently, and you still don't really have a strategy. And when you coach with me inside the formula, I'm going to teach you how to pre-plan, right? Which is going to help you if you do need to track, but it's also going to help you eat intuitively. So I get that we kind of avoid planning. We don't necessarily like to think too much about our food. You know, there's a fear of like things getting too sciencey and you got to do math while you do your, while you eat. And I totally get that. But what if understanding your food was like just a requirement for adulthood? Because we all have to eat. And think about, we're eating every single solitary day of our life and we still don't really understand our food. And the thing is, it's much easier than you think. And that knowledge that you gain from getting really intimate with the numbers is going to help you eat intuitively so that you're not, counting macros or anything. You're just eating intuitively, but you can do that so much better because you have the number knowledge, right? Those numbers actually give me clarity and more confidence. And when I teach my clients, they're like, oh, I can clearly see. Like, I don't have to feel guilty because I have the cake because guess what? It fits, right? And so right now what I see is clients tracking their macros, or they're just cutting out meals or cutting out carbs, and they still don't understand their food. So you're still just kind of guessing. So it gives you a lot more clarity. So do you recommend protein shakes to help supplement meals? I don't find anything wrong with protein shakes. I like Fairlife protein shakes. You don't have to have them, but they are a very easy, convenient way to help you get your protein. But do you need protein shakes? No. Are they convenient? Yes. So depending on your goals, and we're going to talk about like what your protein goals should be here in a second, but depending on your skill level, your goals will, and your weight, etc., will help you determine whether or not you need one or not. Okay. So protein, carbs, and fat, those are our macros. They're going to help you provide energy, build muscle, maintain essential body functions. So when I say a calorie, did y'all know that a calorie is just a unit of measurement? So for example, if I say it is 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside, or if I say it is 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside, that's a way to quantify like how much heat is in the atmosphere, right? Or if I say go run a mile versus go run 10 feet, it's a way to quantify distance, right? A calorie is just a way to quantify and communicate how much energy something has in it. So when I say that protein has one gram of protein has 4 calories, it just means it has 4 units of energy. That's it. Okay. So protein, carbs, and fat. This is our basis for where our calories come from. And by the way, healthy fat and unhealthy fat have the same amount of calories. So you might be having nuts, cashews, pistachios, almonds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, things like that. Avocado is one big one. It says normally if you like avocado, you like avocado. You can eat like half to a whole avocado. If you eat a whole avocado, you're eating like 4 servings of avocado technically, because a serving size is about a fourth of an avocado. So even though you're eating like healthy fat that is good for your brain, good for your heart, it has a lot of calories in a small amount of volume. Now, that's not good. That's not bad. It's just, do you understand how to put that together and make it fit for your lifestyle and your goals? And that's what I teach you inside of the formula. Because for my ladies who are under eaters, right, you're not eating very many calories, you don't feel super hungry, maybe you've been on a weight loss medication and now you have no appetite, it's really important that you don't just keep eating like 800 calories. It's not good for our hormones or our metabolism. And long term, you'll get stuck. You can't build muscle from there. And we can actually use healthy fat to help us get to our calorie goal, right? But you just have to be strategic and have that skill and that knowledge base. And the way that I teach this in the formula is step by step. It is very simple. I do not start off with everything week 1. I literally just have you focus on breakfast the first week. And then I just have you focus on lunch the next week. And then I just have you focus on dinner and snacks the next week. And then we put everything together. So the first 3 weeks, you're really getting curious about your food. You are getting curious about the serving size that's on the back of the package. So for example, if you have almonds, you're looking on the back and like, oh, 38 grams is a serving. Let me weigh out 38 grams. Oh, that's a serving. Okay, eat, right? So we're just using the virtue of curiosity. And I find that this is so much better versus like the, 3, 2, 1, go method where you're trying to do everything week 1. You are going to leave here with increased knowledge, more confidence, more clarity about your food when you really lean into this process. So why do the macros matter? Because it really helps you tailor your diet to specific fitness goals. Whether you want to lose fat, you want to lose muscle, or not, we never want to lose muscle. I meant to say gain muscle. We want to be very specific about where our calories are coming from. And when you're in a calorie deficit, right, that's the only way we lose fat. We want to keep our protein high, right? So if we have carbs, proteins, and fats, we want to keep the protein high and bring the calories down from the carbs and the fat, okay? Versus bringing calories down from protein. We want to keep that protein high. So when you count your macros, you can be more specific and say, okay, I'm going to eat this much protein and then I'm going to bring my calories down from my carbs and my fat. And this is so that when we are in a calorie deficit, we want to keep our muscle. And 3 really important things for muscle, to keep your muscle or to grow muscle. Number 1, you need enough protein. Number 2, you need to be lifting progressively, right? You need to be on a training program, not just going into the gym doing random 3 sets of 10. And you need to be sleeping well. Sleep is so important. We have hormones that are secreted only when you are in deep sleep, right? So if you are only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night, that hormonal cascade doesn't happen while you're sleeping. When you want to either build muscle or keep your muscle and you're doing strength training, your rest days are probably the most important days because that is where you repair. That is where you start to build that muscle, and sleep is where that happens. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep, right? And so you guys can be working out really hard in the gym, but if you're not eating according to that, you're just going to be working really hard in the gym. It's kind of like if you have a scab and you like cut your skin, and this same thing happens, like you will get like inflammation. It'll be like, watery, or you can see like it's inflamed. Our muscles are getting those micro tears in our muscle. And then when we sleep well, we eat enough calories and enough protein, it comes and like puts that scab, quote unquote, right? That it repairs that muscle. And so every time you're doing that, you're kind of layering that scab, you are building muscle. Now, this takes a while, but kind of think of it like that. So think about if you were to cut your skin and you didn't have that scab over and over again, you just kept cutting it over and over and over again, and you're not repairing it, it's just going to be a wound, right? You're not going to build that muscle. Hopefully y'all are following that analogy. You're not going to build that muscle. You're just going to be like sore all the time, but you're not going to be actually repairing yourself. So your calories matter, your protein matters, your sleep matters, your training program matters. So when we eat, we're going to keep our protein high if we want to lose fat, right? We want to bring our calories down from our carbohydrates and our fat. And so when we look at our plate, right, we want to see protein. We want to see some carbs. We want to have some healthy fat on our plate every single time. So for example, there's nothing wrong with eating an apple for a snack, but it's better to always have some protein. So normally my clients need 3 meals and 1 snack in order to hit their protein goals. Now, some of my clients might want 2 snacks, that's fine. But at least 3 meals and 1 snack to hit their protein goals. And you probably won't be hitting them unless you're supplementing a lot if your snack is very low in protein. So every time we eat, we want to be having that mix of macros, our proteins, our carbs, and our fats. And we want to be paying attention to the portion size, because I can build a meal plan for someone that has 3,000 calories, and I can build a meal plan for someone that has 1,500 calories with the same exact foods. The portions would just be different, right? So a lot of you also will tell me like, hey, my family doesn't eat healthy. What can I eat? And I'm like, we have to come to Jesus with this, because you making a whole nother meal and your family's eating something else, that is not sustainable. The same foods that are healthy for you are healthy for everyone. And you don't have to just eat, just salads every night. When you understand your macros, you understand, oh, okay, here's what I can have and all the things that I can have, because you can't have an abundance of food, especially if you're eating single ingredient whole foods. This means things that are not necessarily coming out of a package or a drive-through. There's a lot of things that you can have, and you don't have to eat separate foods, right? It's kind of like if you have that dynamic in your household, you got to have a family meeting and talk about health and wellness and support, and also go on an adventure to find meals that the family likes. And so this could be a family thing, but I think that's really important, that you're not trying to do something separate than everyone else. So we want to have a balance of our protein, carbs, and fats on our plate. And I believe that this gives you better results than just counting calories alone, because number one, we want to lose weight on as many calories as possible, not on as little calories as possible. That's really important. Sure, you could get on 1,000 calories and probably lose weight, But you know what else you're going to lose? You're going to lose muscle. And you know why that's bad? Because it's going to decrease your metabolism. Having muscle is the best and probably quickest way to boost your metabolism is by actually having muscle. Two people that weigh 200 pounds, the person who has more muscle is going to burn more calories around the clock. This person that does not have as much muscle is going to burn less calories. And do you know what that means? That means they're going to gain weight on fewer calories, right? If your body isn't burning as much throughout the day, it doesn't really require that much. So your maintenance calories are going to be a little bit lower. That means that you're going to gain weight on fewer calories. This is not what we want to do. This is why I'm not a big fan of fasting. I'm not a big fan of like intermittent fasting. I'm not a big fan of like just slashing your calories or just juicing and stuff like that, because that's cute. It'll help you to lose weight and the scale will go down. But over time, when you're not prioritizing keeping your muscle, you're slowing your metabolism, and now you gain weight on fewer calories. And the other bad thing about that is because you don't understand your macros and because you're not really like keeping track of how many calories you need, you're just trying to eat as little as possible. You just go back to eating regular once you stop dieting. And now you have no idea what your maintenance calories are. Here's the proper way to do it if you're on a macro journey. You are in a calorie deficit, you get to your weight loss goal. Then you do what's called a reverse diet, which means you start to increase your calories a little bit at a time each week in order to see where your maintenance calories are. Because number one, there's not one right number for a calorie deficit. Let's say you need 2,200 calories to maintain your current weight, right? If I put you on let's just say you're going down to a 1,200 calorie diet, right? A deficit is everything really below 2,200. But like if you're on a 1,200 calorie diet, a 1,400 calorie diet is still a deficit. A 1,700 calorie diet is still a deficit, right? So there's not one correct number, but again, we want to be losing weight on as many calories as possible, not as few calories as possible, because we want to be prioritizing fat loss, not just weight loss. Okay. So when you lose weight, you are a smaller person, right? So if you lose a bunch of weight, now your maintenance calories is no longer going to be 2,200 because now you're a smaller human being. So now your maintenance calories might be 1,800, right? And so if you just go back to eating regular, you actually gain weight on 2,000 calories when before that was still a deficit when you were a heavier person. Does this make sense? Y'all let me know in the chat. Right? When you lose weight, you don't need as many calories to maintain. This is why it's so important to understand your nutrition, because then you reverse out and you increase your calories and you figure out where your new maintenance goal is. And then you can actually track at maintenance for a little bit before you just stop and start eating intuitively, so that you can get used to it. Like, okay, here are my maintenance calories and this is what that looks like on the plate. This is how many times I can eat. This is how full and satisfied I can feel. Like, you need to know what that feels like in your body at maintenance before you just stop tracking or stop doing whatever you're doing to lose weight, because you don't know what your maintenance is now. And that is a big reason why people do the yo-yo diet. They lose a bunch of weight. They're like, yay, I lost the weight. And then they just start eating regular, no plan, and the weight comes back because you're losing weight, but you don't know what your maintenance goals are. Okay. Tina says, yes, makes sense. Okay, great. Cool. All right. I'm glad this is making sense. So we want to have a balanced plate. We want to have protein, carbs, fat, and protein, carbs, fat on our plate. And this is, I think, is going to give you better results because we get to keep a little bit of our muscle. If you guys are not getting in-body scans, I highly recommend that my clients get in-body scans. So what you can do, Google in-body near me, in-body near me. They usually now, they're pretty popular, have them at your gym, like GNC or like discount vitamin stores, um, maybe spas and stuff like that. Most of the time they're free. Sometimes certain facilities will charge you for it, but get an in-body scan. You get that once a month in the morning before you eat, and it will tell you your musculature, your visceral fat, which is the fat that's like around your organs. And you can see when you lose weight, am I losing fat or muscle or both? Right. And to be honest, you will lose a little bit of muscle when you're in a calorie deficit. If you're bulking and you're like trying to build muscle and eating in a surplus, you're going to gain a little bit of fat too. So that is normal, but we want to mitigate that as much as possible. So when we eat protein, and my clients, by the time they finish coaching with me, they are looking at protein in everything. Okay. So it helps to repair your tissues after working out. It helps you to feel more full and more satisfied. So my ladies who are dealing with cravings, if you are super duper hungry in the evening time, this usually means to me, number one, I'm eating carb heavy meals throughout the day. Number two, it could mean you're skipping breakfast. A lot of times that's true. You're just eating breakfast or not eating breakfast and drinking coffee. It means that you are not prioritizing protein and you're probably not getting enough. So in the evening, you're starving. Once we start having you have regular meals, protein focused meals, you're like, oh, I'm really not having that evening craving anymore. And I'm like, okay. I knew that was going to happen because you weren't eating enough protein in the beginning, right? So here's my recommendation for protein intake. It's somewhere between, again, there's not one right number, 0.6 times your weight up to like 1 or 1.2 times your weight. So I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator. Okay. Let's say your goal weight is 180 pounds, right? I'm going to take 180. I'm going to times that times 0.6. And that's 108 grams. Now, grams of protein. Now, that to me is normal. So what I normally see when clients start like tracking their food initially, they're getting anywhere between like 70 to 100 grams of protein, which I consider fine for just health. But we typically want that to be a little bit higher. So what I do, I have an assessment that you fill out. I'm looking at what you're already logging in, and I give you personalized numbers based on, my years of coaching, being a registered dietitian, looking at all your numbers, and I give you your numbers. So 0.6 to 1.2. So let's say 180 times 1.2, that's 216. Now, do I typically go up that high? Usually I don't. If you're like a smaller person, maybe if you're like 140-ish, I might go up to 1 gram per pound, which is 140 grams of protein. But again, it all just depends. So typically if you're farther away from your goal, you usually err on the side of like 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 on the lower end, right? If you are closer to your goal, like your weight goal, you will err on the side of 0.8, 0.9, or 1 gram per pound. Okay. So let me just restate that because I feel like that was a little bit confusing. Your recommended protein intake can be anywhere from 0.6 times your weight up to like, I'm going to say 1 gram per pound. Okay. So along that lines, you can multiply your weight times 0.6 or 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, or 1. Somewhere in there is typically your goal. Now, if you are like 300 pounds plus, I would always start someone out a little lower only because the skill set to get, let's say 150 is a lot for someone who doesn't have the right skill. So I always start my clients on the lower end. And then as their skill level increases, I increase the number. Okay. Let me know what questions you have about protein and getting protein. So high protein foods. If you're a meat eater, meat is the quickest way for you to get protein per volume. Okay. So chicken, fish, um, beef, turkey, shrimp, right? Like if you're a meat eater, that's the quickest way. So typically that's anywhere between 110 to 130 grams of the meat. Like if you weighed out the meat, that would give you somewhere between like 25 and 30 grams of protein, right? So weighing out a fillet of fish, 120 grams of fish usually corresponds to somewhere around like 25-ish grams of protein. And so lunch and dinner are usually the easiest ones for my clients to hit their protein goals. It usually breaks down to roughly around 30 grams of protein per meal and snack. And lunch and dinner tend to be the easiest ones because we're typically eating some sort of meat. And if you're getting 25 in your protein, in your meat, then if you have beans or whatever else you're having with that meat for your lunch and dinner, you can typically easily hit your protein goals for lunch and dinner. It is breakfast and snacks where I see most people not getting the 30. So cottage cheese is a good one. Pure egg whites. And if you want to add a whole egg in there for some fat, but egg whites are pure protein. Smoked salmon on a bagel. If you guys ever checked out Better Bagels, they have a ton of protein. What else? Greek yogurt, Dan Enlightened Fit. Y'all already know, my clients know that's my favorite yogurt. So there's plenty of options that you can actually choose that are not meat. And especially if you're not a meat eater. So what if I'm not a meat eater? Okay, great. Nuts and seeds have protein. They are classified as fat though, because they do have more fat than protein. Things like beans. Of course, you can use like vegan protein supplements, but you will have to piece together your protein, and that's fine. It's still doable, but you do have to be intentional about having like, some quinoa or oats or something in there that's going to give you a little bit more protein. Peas is another good one. So you can be a vegan or a vegetarian, get the protein that you need. You're probably going to eat more volume though, because plants don't have as much protein per volume. So you're probably going to have to eat more food if you're just like plant-based. All right, let me check my notes and see if y'all have any questions. Let's see. They have apps that do those two. I don't know how accurate it is. Oh, yeah, they do. And here's the thing. The accuracy doesn't matter as much as far as like the scales. So InBody is supposed to be more accurate. If you have a scale at home that does your body fat percentage and all of that, doesn't matter if it's super accurate. We are looking for the trend. We're looking for the trend up or down. And so that matters most. So that's what I look for when I coach my clients and they have those. So, all right. So carbohydrates, right? They're going to help you fuel your workouts. So if you're feeling super tired and you've been, trying to do low carb or cutting out fruit or whatever, carbohydrate is going to help you fuel your workouts, your daily activities. I have my clients pick carbohydrates that have 3 grams of fiber or more per serving. This is going to help with your blood sugars if you're concerned about blood sugar. It's going to help with your energy level, have sustained energy level. We want to pick complex carbohydrates. And these are things like sweet potatoes, quinoa, oats, brown rice, fruits, vegetables. Now, you don't have to have brown rice, because I've only met like one person that really actually likes brown rice. You don't have to eat brown rice, right? Like I prefer black beans to brown rice. I recently started eating basmati rice, and that was really good. I was actually kind of surprised, and I'm breaking my own rule because I haven't found one that has 3 grams of fiber or more, and that's okay, but I'll eat it. I'm not going to eat any brown rice. So your preferences actually really matter as well. So carbohydrates, 3 grams of fiber or more per serving. And that's what I have my clients initially look for. And then healthy fat. So healthy fat is important for your brain function, your hormone production, um, also to metabolize our fat soluble vitamins. So if you're like taking the black girl vitamin D, right? If you take that in the presence of some healthy fat, it actually helps to increase the absorption. So if you're eating things like nuts, seeds, avocado, olive oil, fatty fish, those actually help to increase the absorption of your fat soluble vitamins. So for my undereaters, my folks that are not eating enough food, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to eat that much food? Healthy fat is going to be your best friend to help you to increase your calorie consumption. Because a little bit of chia seeds, a little bit of nuts, a little bit of avocado from breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks can actually end up being 500 calories easy. So you just have to know how to utilize that, right? And so when we're looking at a nutrition label, we want to identify the amount of protein, carbs, and fats per serving. So we want to think about 5% or less is low, 20% or more is high when you look on the label. 20% or more is high, 5% or less is low. And so it depends on what it is. If it's saturated fat, right, 5% or less is good. If that is 20% or more is high, that's not great because saturated fat is not healthy for your brain or your heart, right? But if it was something like vitamin C and it's 20%, that would be good, right? So you can just apply those parameters to see like, oh, is this high in fat or is this high in sugar, for example? But I will say this. People will come to me and be like, hey, can I have this? And they'll be showing me one single food item. Is this okay to have? And I'm like, well, everything in moderation. No one likes that answer. But if you understand your macros, you know that one thing doesn't necessarily make or break your entire day. You can have this one thing that might have like a little bit, like it might be high in sugar. But what else are you eating throughout the day? If all the rest of your food is single ingredient whole foods, then you might be able to have that. And then it's like, okay, well, how much of that can I have? Right. And so when you can see your macros, you can see your numbers and you can see whether or not this throws your daily plan off or not. So when calculating your macros, this is what I do inside the formula for my ladies. I give them a protein goal and I give them their calorie goal. And I have them within 100 calories of their calorie goal. So let's say I give them a calorie goal of 1600. They can plan meals. And again, we build up to this. So this is a skill that they don't actually start doing until week 4 or 5 because we take a long time for curiosity and getting used to our food and the whole process. But let's say I give someone a 1600 calorie deficit. They can plan foods between 1500 and 1700. You don't have to hit it right on the money. Okay. But then I also have them hit or exceed their protein goal. And this is very important because again, we want to keep our protein high. And then we want to bring our calories down from our carbs and our fat. But I don't give them a goal for their fat or their carbs. And the reason why is because if I'm capping their calories and I'm telling them, hey, hit your protein goal or exceed it, they won't be able to go over their calorie allotment from fat and carbs because I capped their calories. Because it really doesn't matter as much for body composition if they have a little bit more fat some days or have a little bit more carbs some days, because I'm not coaching like, extreme athletes or anything like that. And it allows you to be more flexible. So you might be getting frustrated because you're in MyFitnessPal trying to like hit your protein, your carbs, and your fat and your calories. And you're like, man, I get to the end of the day and I'm under on my protein, but I'm over on calories. And there's nothing that you can do about it. And most people will just start again the next day with no strategy. So you've done all of that work and you still didn't hit your goals, right? And so in the formula, not only do I teach you how to pre-plan, I teach you how to build a system so that you don't even have to plan. And I teach you when you do plan, you can plan in seconds. And when I say seconds, I'm for real. like a few seconds. So we are building a system in the formula. I'm not just teaching you how to build a meal plan, because that means you have to start over from scratch every single day or every single week. And that's crazy because we eat a lot of the same or similar foods. So we're building a system that lends itself to your consistency. This, I promise you, you haven't done it like this before. And one thing that I just challenge you to do, go on the desktop or even on your phone and just type in www.myfitnesspal.com and log in, right? So normally people are using the app, which is, it is definitely easier to track on the app. Tracking is, I'm eating an apple, I put it in. I eat oatmeal, I put it in. It's easier to do that on the app. But what I want you to do is open up the web version and start adding food from there. And you'll see how much easier it is for you to pre-plan your food and see all of the numbers. I have my clients change either sodium or sugar to fiber because we want to track our fiber as well. Because let me tell you what happens. I hear this a lot, like, oh, I'm increasing my protein and I'm getting constipated. You're getting constipated because you're increasing protein, but that means your fiber is going down. Your fruits and vegetables and probably your nuts and seeds are going down to make room for your protein, and that's causing the constipation, not necessarily just the fact that you're eating more protein. It's because you don't know how to balance protein with the fiber. So I have my clients use the web version to pre-plan. I have them tracking their fiber, which is so important. And then it's so much easier to see, like the picture of it is so much easier to see all of the numbers, and you can play around with your portions so that you can have ice cream and you can have cake and you can have all those things that I can see clearly. Then I go to the grocery store, I buy what I already planned, and you can either prep or cook throughout the week. You don't have to prep, but I always, my guideline is kind of like all or something, right? You don't have to prep everything, but something is usually pretty helpful, whether it's just snacks or just your breakfast or just your proteins or whatever. And so that system works really well. And then it becomes so easy. And then because you've practiced and you've gotten really intimate with your numbers, intuitive eating becomes much simpler because you have a system and you have, practiced with the portions, and it just makes things so much more clear. Okay. So again, I challenge you, go in myfitnesspal.com and look at the version where you're going to the food diary and adding things in and like pre-planning. Such a better view. And I put this on my Facebook not too long ago, but if y'all change your location on the app to the United Kingdom, you can scan on the free version. I hope this is not illegal or something. But you can scan on the free version. So here's what I do inside the formula. We first start out by just taking photos of our food for a week or so, just to get more, like pay more attention to my plate. Then I teach my clients the breakfast formula. I have them plan out up to 3 different breakfasts. They can do 2, they can do 1, up to 3. And then they practice executing that breakfast for that next week. And I don't care what they eat for lunch. I don't care what they eat for dinner. But they're still taking photos of your food. And because you're taking photos of your food, it's not for me to judge your food. It is so that you can just practice being more aware of what you're having. And normally, naturally, you make better choices, but we just want to hyper focus on breakfast for that 1 or 2 weeks, right? And then while they're executing the breakfast that they planned, we are practicing noticing our portions, right? We're practicing utilizing our food scale and our just looking at the nutrition facts. I'm like, oh, okay, this is 38 grams. So we're noticing, we're just paying more attention to it. This is not like I'm tracking everything. The next week, I teach them the lunch formula, which is again, a mix of those protein, carbs, and that fat, your macros, right? For another week, we will practice the lunch and breakfast formula. I don't care what you eat for dinner, right? And so all the while we're paying attention to our food, we're learning how to be accurate with your measurements and things. And then the next week we add dinner and snacks. So it's very progressive to where by the time we get to the part where I'm helping you put together a plan, you've already seen like your typical rotation of foods that you typically eat multiple times. You already have your recent list built up in MyFitnessPal. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to that, but especially if you use the web version. If you go into the web version, you go to add food, there's a recent list there. And if you are, for the first 3 weeks, getting curious about your food, finding the exact item, scanning it, because I just told you how to do the scan without getting the pre version or the premium. I mean, all of your recent list is right there. So I can go in and I can click on what I want and I can add it to my diary. And that's so much easier than having to like find everything every single time. And then once I add my breakfast, you know what I do? Because I'm giving y'all all the secrets right now, is I go to Quick Tools, Remember Meal, and I can save that whole chunk, whether it's your breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snacks. And I can name it. I tell them to name it something very specific so that the next time when they're planning, they can go, instead of going to the recent tab, they can go to the meals tab and they can take that whole chunk and plan it in. And that is how we build a system and how they pre-plan their food within seconds. So if that like went right over your head because you're like, I don't know, I ain't never seen that before, log in and just try it. It's so much easier. Of course, I'm going to be helping you implement this process because I can tell y'all all the secrets, all I want. I can tell you exactly what to do here in this live, and you can just, listen to it like, oh my God, that was so good. That was so helpful. But you actually have to implement that week after week. That's why I'm not scared. I'm not scared to like give you all the tea because you actually have to implement that week to week. That is the magic, right? Because y'all can get a Chat GPT meal plan that will tell you exactly what to eat, but you're probably not doing that right now. You're probably not following that right now. You're probably doing what's convenient. And so what we want to do and what I teach you inside the formula is how to make healthy living more convenient, how to build a system. Okay. So I have my clients hit their protein, be within 100 calories of their calorie goal, let their carbs and fats flex because that is more flexible. And so a lot of common mistakes that I'll see with when people start to track on their own is they're not using the exact name brand. So whether it is pasta or they might have some kind of soup or something, they'll just find a random soup, tomato soup, and they'll put that in. The information that you track is only as good as it is accurate. So if you're just guessing with your portions, if you're just using household measurements or you just picking something random, then your numbers are going to be all over the place. And that's why you're like, oh, I'm tracking my food, but I'm not seeing any results. It's probably because it's not correct. And you can learn how to do it accurately, right? And tracking isn't the best and most sustainable way because most people, like I said, are doing it inconsistently or incorrectly. So we need your real numbers if you want to stop guessing. Another common mistake is people are not adding their like oil and butter. They're like, oh, it says 0 calories for this butter. And they're like spraying olive oil out of the aerosol can or Pam or whatever on their food or on the pan because it said 0 calories. But what you don't know is that it says a fourth of a spray. Usually it says a fourth of a spray has 0 calories. Number one, that 0 calories is rounded down. They're able to round, right? So those nutrition labels are imprecise. I don't know if y'all know that. I think it can be off by like 25% and still be fine. So they round down to make it 0 because who knows what a fourth of a spray is? Who knows? But just because you take olive oil out of the pour bottle and put it in an aerosol can and spray it on your food, it doesn't mean it doesn't have calories anymore. Because if you look at the bottle of olive oil that you pour, it says around 110, 120 calories per tablespoon. And those calories don't just go away because you put it in an aerosol can, right? And so that's one of the major mistakes. Fat has a lot of calories per volume. And if you're not tracking that lunch, breakfast, dinner, and maybe a snack for 7 days out of the week, that's a lot of unaccounted for calories. So you're probably eating more than what you think. That's for sure. Because whenever I see, I've been eating 1,200 calories, but the scale isn't moving, I'm like, you're probably eating a little bit more than that. So we get really accurate, but we do it in a way that is not overwhelming. Okay. We also make sure that we're hitting our fiber goal. Again, going back to the protein, a lot of folks are adding protein because there's a lot of talk about protein now on the internet. How do we get more protein? But then I'm like, I'm constipated. It's because you don't know how many grams of fiber you're supposed to have, which is usually 25 grams minimum for women, and you're not tracking that. And when you go into MyFitnessPal, you can see how much fiber you're getting, but most of the time people aren't going into that section, especially if you're just using the app, which is why I like the desktop version. And I have my clients switch either sodium or sugar to the fiber so that we can see it like one of the first nutrients that we can see. So other mistakes that I see too is just not focusing on single ingredient foods. So single ingredient whole foods is going to help you track, pre-plan. It's going to be healthier for you. It's going to give you more energy. So when I say single ingredient foods, I mean chicken, avocado, apple, right? Did you know that eating single ingredient whole foods actually helps you burn more calories throughout the day? Why? Think about an apple. If I eat an apple, I have to work harder. My body has to work harder to break that down. If I eat applesauce, my body didn't have to work as hard because it's already like kind of chopped up, right? Now think about a Cheez-It. Cheez-It is manufactured, right? And it is chemicals, really. We're putting it in our body and it's made to easily break down in your body. So now your body doesn't have to work as hard to break it down. So you're not burning as many calories. Is called the thermic effect of food. Thermic effect of food. That just means how many calories does my body have to expend to break this food down. So processed food, highly processed foods have a low thermic effect of food. That means we're not burning many calories to break it down. And we don't get satisfied when we eat like highly processed foods. So now our hunger signals are off. Now we can eat a lot more of those Cheez-Its or whatever it is without feeling satisfied. But I'm still getting a lot of calories, but my body doesn't have to work that hard to break it down. I don't feel as satisfied, so I'm eating more, right? So eating single ingredient whole foods is one of the ways that you can increase your thermic effect of food. Your thermic effect of food is part of what drives your metabolism. Okay. And then other mistakes that I'm seeing, saving your treat for your cheat day. This is not necessary when you understand your macros. When you understand your macros, I have my clients that get good at this, start planning in a treat. Plan in your treats throughout the week. That way, when you see a cupcake on the weekend, it's not that big of a deal because you're like, yeah, I had a cupcake on Monday. I planned it in and I still hit my protein and my calories. It's not that big of a deal. So you don't want to be restrictive. If you want to build a lifestyle, you cannot think to yourself like, oh, I can't have any cake, ice cream, all of that. But when you understand your food, you can actually plan that in, and it takes the guilt away, and it helps you. It keeps you from a binge cycle because you're not restricting. The binge restrict cycle starts with the restriction. It starts with your no sugar November. It starts with your, I'm not going to eat, any sugar, no soda, no X, Y, and Z for a certain amount of time. And it's like, that sounds great at first, But then when you see it and you have been restricting yourself, you just go overboard. And then you don't trust yourself. And then that's a whole nother thing. And that's what we are going to be working on inside the formula: self trust, self love, mastering your macros, mastering your mindset. And you get a registered dietitian and a mindset coach inside of your back pocket to help you every single day. I give you a blueprint of exactly what to do. You will never be like, what do I do today? No, I have exactly what to do every single day. And then when you have questions, you have me in your back pocket. Questions, y'all. What questions do you have? So, just to kind of recap, y'all drop your questions if you have any. Macros are protein, carbs, and fat. Most foods have a mix of those. If you look on the label and it has more protein than it does carbs and fat, we label that a protein, even if it does have some of the other macros. When you are counting macros, you're counting calories. And so if I say, okay, I'm going to have 2,000 calories a day, I can take a certain percentage for protein, a certain percentage for carbs, a certain percentage for fat, and that will make up my total calories. And which percentage I choose is based on your current goals, your current skill set, and your preference. Again, I have my clients hit their protein goal. If they typically like to have higher carb meals, as long as they're capped their calories, that's fine. If you feel better having higher fat meals, as long as you hit your protein and you're within 100 calories of your calorie goal, that's fine, right? Isn't that like way more flexible? It's not so rigid. Thanks, Deanna. Hey, Deanna. Thanks for watching. If y'all have any questions and you're watching the replay, please drop them in the chat. I will be here to answer your questions. The Fit Figure formula is open for enrollment. If you are joining within the first week, I'm giving you a bonus private one-on-one call with me, and I'm making you a meal plan. I never make meal plans, y'all. Never. Okay. But I am going to do that if you are signing up within the first week. So you have until today to book a call up to next Monday, because really the doors are supposed to open tomorrow. But I'm letting y'all go ahead, go to the link in the chat and book your call. On this no pressure call, I'm going to get to know you a little bit better. You get to see my personality, how I talk, how I coach, my philosophy on things. I want to know who you are. I want to know about your history. I want to find the root of the problem. We're going to talk about macros and mindset. And then we get to decide whether or not the Fit Figure formula is a good fit for you. I do also want to mention that if you need a payment plan, because I think that cost is like probably a big question and barrier. I have payment plans go through Affirm or Klarna or PayPal Credit. So if you're like, hey, I really want help, I want to join, but I'm not sure if it's going to be affordable, that is how I do the payment plans. And I will literally send you the link even before you book a call. If you just want to see, like, if you've never used Affirm before or something like that. Number one, if you've never used Affirm before, I promise you, once you see the little logo, you're going to see it everywhere, because it's at Walmart, it's on Amazon, it's everywhere. And it basically allows you to split up the payments. And it gives you 3 different options that you get to choose. And it helps you afford the program without having to pay everything all out of pocket. So I will literally send you the link. If you want me to just send you the link, and you can click on the Affirm, go through the process and see what you qualify for, you can do that and then see like if the payment plan is something that you can do, and then we can get on our call. I'm totally fine with doing that. But also if you have okay, am I still live? I think I touched. Yeah, let me know if you can still hear me. I accidentally messed this. Okay. I think I'm still on. But if you what was I saying? Oh, if you have an HSA FSA account and you want to go through that, if you have a card, you can use that card. If you need a split payment where you pay a little bit from your personal and then a little bit from your HSA card, we can do that too. So I don't want price to be the barrier for you signing up. If you have questions, DM me. Um, so hopefully y'all can hear this because I think I just messed up the audio. But um, to give you kind of like a little overview, um, we meet Mondays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. CST. I will drop the 8-minute overview, but there's two opportunities to get coaching every single week. You also have me in between calls. So if you have a question in between that Monday and Thursday call, you have a way to reach me and I can answer your questions specifically. Mondays, usually we're talking about mindset, self worth, self trust. One of my clients had a breakthrough moment on, what was that, Thursday, where we talked about this concept where she's always telling herself, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. And I'm like, what's the difference between I'm fat and like I have fat? And that was just like so helpful for her because she was like, I'm saying I'm fat as an identity, and that's making me feel bad. Versus like, here I am, and yes, I have a little bit more fat than I would like, but that's not who I am. And that was just like a breakthrough moment for her. And again, you only need a 1% shift, you guys, um, to start feeling better, start being nicer and kinder to yourself with your words. Oh, I have no volume. Oh, man. Let me know if that's better. Is that better? Let me know. Um, so I'm gonna hop off because I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. But if you are wanting to join, if you have questions, just DM me your questions. I can send you the link to see if you can qualify for a payment plan if you need one. I can send you the 8-minute overview so you can kind of look at um, the process. So thank you guys for watching. Drop your questions, and I'll see you soon.